iruntaughtly.co.uk. Today we've got a video lesson all about summary writing for IGCSE First Language English, and we're going to have a look at a really great student exemplar. So the past paper that we're going to have a look at is the one that's called Is It Wrong to Swim with Dolphins for your text B. Now, don't forget that if you would like to study live with me, I do have regular group classes, I have cram class, master classes, everything that is upcoming will be on my events calendar right here or linked in the description. I've also got a premium writing course that's on my website. That's 30 hours of video lessons and content that isn't on YouTube, so do go over there to check that out. Now, for summary writing, based on text B, you guys are going to write a focused summary, which means that you are going to answer a specific question. So you're not summarising the whole text, you are focusing only on that question. If you include lots of irrelevant information that does not answer that question, you are going to lose some reading marks. By the way, everything that I'm saying applies to both 2026 and 2027 students, as there are no major changes to summary writing for 2027. So the number of marks will remain the same. So the question is worth 15 marks total, as always. So that's 10 marks for reading and about 5 marks for writing. You need to spend about 20-ish minutes writing it. I think about 10 minutes to read and plan and 10 minutes to write is the ideal time. If you are a fast writer, it's fine to spend a little bit less time on that. Now, although Cambridge do give you a word suggestion, which is around 120 words, do not waste time counting up your words because Cambridge certainly will not. Instead, aim to write no more than the first sheet of paper, probably writing up to about here is the ideal length. And this summary that I'm going to show you guys today is the ideal length too, by the way. Now, in terms of exam technique, this is what I recommend for the summary question. So firstly, we are going to read the question. That way we know what information we're looking for. There's no point reading the text and then reading the question, then needing to reread the text. It's not efficient, especially since you only answer the summary question on this text. It's not really a good use of your time. Now, in terms of getting the reading marks, you can get up to 10 marks for reading. On the mark scheme, however, there will probably be at least 10 answers to the question, typically more like 12 to 15. So therefore, we're going to aim to give 10 to 12 different answers to that question. That's just in case one of the answers that we think is right isn't, right? So we need to make sure that we're covering all bases whilst trying to include as little excess as possible. Do watch out that some of the points will need to be inferred. Most of them are pretty explicit, but some of them are only suggested and you will need to go, oh, you said that this place is safe. Therefore, where they currently are isn't safe, right? So you might need to do some inference like that. Remember that this is a focus summary question, so only answer information that is relevant to the question. Anything that doesn't answer your question will be classed as excess, extra, irrelevant information, and you will start to lose reading marks for including that because that suggests that you haven't understood the question and or haven't understood the text. So you're going to go through and you're going to highlight for those 10 to 12 reading marks. After highlighting, then you need to quickly decide which points belong together, which order are you going to put them in. You don't want to copy them out chronologically. Instead, you want to group them by theme. Points that are similar should go together. That shows good organisation, good planning and good comprehension. Remember that you do not need an introduction or conclusion for summary writing. Every single sentence should have a purpose and should have some reading mark in there. If I see a long introduction sentence, a long conclusion sentence, I would class that as excess information and I would make you lose 1 reading mark for including that. So don't do that. So firstly, let's have a look at our question. According to text B, what are the arguments against swimming with dolphins and what are responsible tour operators doing to improve the situation? Use continuous writing, not note form, and use your own words as far as possible. Your summary should not be more than 120 words. Up to 10 marks are available for the content of your answer and up to 5 marks for the quality of your writing. Now, firstly, this is what we're looking out for. This question has got 2 parts. They might not always. Sometimes it's got 1 part, sometimes it's got 2. This one's got 2. Arguments against swimming with dolphins and what can we do to improve the situation. So 2 parts. When it's a 2-parter, what I recommend is have 2 paragraphs, 2 short paragraphs. Doesn't have to be 1 paragraph. I think it's better organisation to split it up into 2. We need to make sure that we're not doing bullet points. It has to be in continuous sentences, continuous paragraph. And we have to use our own words as much as possible, right? You can't think of a good synonym for dolphins without sounding crazy and changing the meaning, so it's fine to say dolphin. Tour operator, I think that's also fine to say, but I think that 95% of what we write should be in our own words. Individual words that are really impossible to think of a good synonym for, fine, just copy it down. Remember, you don't need to count up the number of words, we're aiming simply to write less than the page. 10 marks for reading, so we need to find 10 answers, and 5 marks for the quality of our writing, which is how well have we paraphrased, meaning put it in our own words. How well does our writing flow? Have we organised and sequenced our answer logically and in a way that helps to guide the reader? So let's read. As we read, you will notice that I've already highlighted what are the arguments against swimming with dolphins and what can tour operators do to improve the situation. So that's what we're looking out for. Okay, text B. Is it wrong to swim with dolphins? Now, interesting, look at these first 3 paragraphs. No points here. So do notice some paragraphs might not have points in, and Cambridge are going to deliberately include distractions. They're going to include things that sound like they could maybe be in your summary, but actually they're not. And they're trying to distract you and trick you into putting something in that's going to not help you to gain marks. So watch out for that. Let's read. Swimming with dolphins regularly features as one of the most transformative experiences on the top of your wish list. Many tour operators include it in package holidays. You will feel completely free and at one with nature as you swim majestically alongside these incredible creatures, is how one sells the experience. But now doubt has been cast on the health effects of dolphin swimming, not for humans but for the dolphins themselves. No points here. You might think health effects might be one, but it's not specific enough, so we need to carry on reading and you'll see that there are specific examples of those health effects. So health effects by itself is not a point. Researchers have found that swimming close to bottlenose dolphins and trying to touch them can be highly stressful for them, preventing them from resting, feeding or nurturing their young. The implications for many breeds of dolphins are already on the Animal Welfare Institute's list of endangered species, are serious. So we've got some points. Interestingly, these 2 here, stressful and preventing them from resting, blah blah blah, they're the same idea. I think in a different Cambridge mark scheme there'd be separate ideas. Cambridge sometimes pick and choose when they're separate or when they're part of the same point. But one clue here that they're connected is that they're in the same sentence. So yeah, these are technically the same point, and the fact that they're endangered species too is also a point. People think that if they make a disturbance, the animals will just move out of their way, said a spokesman for the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society. But we might displace them, and they might not have a place that's safe to go to. Now, notice again, this is the same point. To displace someone means to send them away from their safe home, right? So these are actually the same point. Again, watch out for that. Another thing that I could imagine that students do is see all of these names. The Animal Welfare Institute and the Whale and Dolphin Conservation Society, it's irrelevant, right? It doesn't answer the question, so you don't need to include it. And what people think would happen, but doesn't happen, again, that's not relevant, so you don't need to include it. So look at all of the bits that haven't been highlighted. This is the stuff that Cambridge is trying to trick you with. Do not fall for it. If dolphins leave, many tourism-driven economies will also suffer. Off the coast of one resort, up to 30 boats invade a pod, a group of dolphins, and swimmers chase the dolphin, hoping to make physical contact. Since dolphins breathe air and so need to surface regularly, they can easily be followed by fast-moving vessels like water skis and speedboats. Such tours run throughout the day. So here again, some of the problems, right? So tourism-driven economies suffer. The fact that there's a lot of boats. Now this is one where you have to infer. So 30 boats invade a pod. You could say it's excessive. It's too many. So that's not clearly stated, but we can develop that one a little bit. We're starting to get a hint towards the second part of the summary too, which was, remember, what can responsible tour operators to improve the situation? So we can see, well, what are the problems? The problems right now is they're making physical contact. If we can stop them from doing that, probably that will improve the situation. There are tour operators who try to interact with the sea creatures in a more responsible way by limiting numbers of boats and passengers and letting dolphins take the lead. In the open sea off the coast of Portugal, Amanda Stafford of Dolphin Connection tells clients to wait for dolphins to approach them and keep their hands to themselves. If the dolphins aren't feeling sociable, they make it obvious. Now again, some of these points are the same. So if you let the dolphin approach you and you let the dolphin take the lead, it's the same meaning, right? So these are the same point. Another thing is some of these phrases are heavily copied. limit the number of boats and passengers, so copied, right? Instead you could say reduce the numbers of passengers and boats, right? Even just flip it around, have a synonym, do something, but don't copy it out word for word. That one is really heavily copied for this paper. There are still worries, not least because of the risk of transmitting diseases between humans and dolphins. We like people going to see the animals, the WDCS spokesman says, but the best organisations make arrangements to watch animals from land. Some dolphins are kept in captive enclosures, so they are readily available to swim with tourists. A neuroscientist said that for creatures accustomed to living in the wild and swimming hundreds of kilometres a day, this could result in long-term psychological problems. And keeping dolphins captive at resorts or aquatic parks is similar to torture, says another researcher, as it separates these sociable animals from their pods. It would be like locking me in a cupboard. We should respect dolphins in the same way we respect people. So we've got some more points. Risk of transmitting diseases is a nice obvious problem. Try to think of some synonyms, or if you can't think of a synonym, switch the sentence order around. Say diseases are at risk of being transmitted, right? So it's okay sometimes if you really can't think of a synonym, but try to change it around so that you're not copying it word for word in the exact same order. Notice also that you've got another repeat. So kept in captive enclosures and kept captive, same meaning, right? So we're not going to say that twice. So here we can see the answers. We can see broadly it kind of goes first part and then second part and then mixed. But this isn't a consistent pattern. Sometimes in the past papers I have noticed that it does tend to go first part then second part broadly, but not always. And also you can see here that at the end it is mixed, so we want to make sure that we're getting all of our points. So we are now going to have a look at a real student response to this question. Shout out to Larmin, who was one of my masterclass students. This is her response that she's kindly given me permission to share. Okay, so when I mark it, basically what I'm doing is I'm looking out for the answers. So here were the answers. What I do is wherever I find an answer, I highlight it and write the number from the mark scheme. This helps me as an examiner and a teacher keep track of what the student has said. It also helps the students to see what points they've made and which ones they've missed out. So if you are a teacher watching, this is the way that I recommend marking it. So the arguments against swimming with dolphins: traumatic, stressful, prevents them from resting, blah blah blah. They're on the endangered list. They could get displaced or go and live in unsafe places. The local economy will suffer. The pursuit of dolphins is excessive. Diseases can be passed, they're captive, and there's psychological effects. What are responsible tour operators doing? Notice here that there are more answers for the first half than the second half. That's okay, they're not always balanced and you don't have to be balanced either. So they can limit the numbers, let the dolphins take the lead, instruct clients not to touch the dolphins, watch the dolphins from land, and show respect to the dolphins. So these were the 13 possible answers. Remember, that's why I say that you should aim to have 10 to 12. You're not going to know what's on the mark scheme, what's not, so I think 10 to 12 is the right number to aim for. Certainly if you haven't got 10 answers in, there's no way you're getting 10 out of 10, so you're already limiting yourself. So 10 is the minimum, but 10 to 12 is the sweet spot. Of course, there's a fine line where you don't want to put in like every possible answer, because then you're going to have excess and repeating yourself and not be focused on the question. So that's why I say 10 to 12 is ideal. Let's read. Swimming with dolphins can make them very anxious and stop them from taking care of their offspring or feeding them and relaxing. This is problematic as some types of dolphins are endangered. People make dolphins feel disturbed and move somewhere unsafe for them, while causing harm to countries with a large and lucrative tourism industry. Diseases can be transferred from humans to dolphins and vice versa, and keeping them in confined spaces away from others can lead to agony and prolonged mental health issues. Responsible tour operators are improving the situation by reducing the number of tours, promoting the idea of allowing the dolphins to be in control by instructing tourists to avoid touching them and waiting for them, as well as opting for tours where dolphins are out in the open and dolphin watching happens on coasts and not in the water. Now the students found a lot of points, so let's start with that first of all. So she's got point 1, but like pretty much every single student that I've marked that did this paper, they say it's stressful and it prevents them from feeding their young, which are part of the same point. So it's technically a repeated point, but I'm going to forgive that one because they do sound separate and everyone does this one. Point 2, that they're endangered. Point 3, that it's not safe for them. Move somewhere unsafe, that's the displacement point. Lucrative tourism industry, the economy, 0.4. Diseases, 0.6. They're confined, 0.7. And psychological damage, 0.8. Reduce the numbers, 0.9. Let dolphins be in control, 0.10. Let avoid touching, 0.11. And watch them from the coast, 0.13. So she's actually got 11 content points found, which is amazing. Now from there, what the examiner will do is they'll count up the number of your points, and then they need to see, have you focused on the question? Have you included excess irrelevant information? If you haven't focused on the question and or you have excessive information, they're then going to start to bring that mark down. So if you've got a little bit of excess, they'll bring you down to a 9. If you've got a lot of excess, they'll bring you down to an 8. I've never seen it where they've moved you down by more than 2, but it's possible if you've got a ridiculously long answer. So this student, they have always stayed focused on the question. So because of that, I actually scored the student 10 out of 10. So they've got 11 points, no partial points, 1 repetition but it's fine, no excess, and they are focused on the question. I could find no reason not to award them 10 out of 10 for reading, because it's very clear that they've read and understood this text and answered that question. Now for writing, you'll see here that I scored them 4 out of 5. I thought that their writing was really nice and they had some great paraphrases, but the thing that stopped me from giving them 5 was this bit here. It's one long sentence. It's not concise, it's a little bit wordy, a little bit repetitive. And so because of that, I didn't feel like I could award them 5 out of 5. I also thought in terms of structure, why not have a new paragraph here? What's the point of this? I think the last bit just kind of sounded like a list. And if she would have written the last bit more similar to the first half, I probably would have given a 5 out of 5 because her synonyms are great. So transmitted becomes transferred, for example, over here. The economy becomes lucrative tourism industry. Love that. So she's got some really, really good synonyms and it sounds nice and formal and it flows. It's just this bit here sadly brings it down. So because of that, I gave her, as you can see, 4 out of 5. So for reading, she's got a range of content points. She's got no excess. She stayed focused on the summary question and she's only got 1 repetition, which everyone honestly has got that repetition. For writing, she paraphrased effectively. Let me just zoom in. She's not lifting, copying from the text. She could use a few more connecting words to transition between ideas. The big problem really is that her ideas aren't grouped super effectively. She hasn't got flow in that second half. Her language is clear and her summary is concise. So this is the main thing. It's the organisation, it's the super long sentence and it's the list-like tone that's bringing her down. But this is a really great example of a summary question, and you can see the length too. I think that's something that students always ask about. So a really wonderful example from Lamin. Thank you so much for sharing. So I do hope that that lesson was useful to you, and do let me know if you've got any questions in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel, and do check out my other resources on taughtly.co.uk. Come and join me for a live class or sign up to my premium writing course. Thank you so much. Bye bye.